What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to have a look at Starter Deck 21. We got a bunch of news about Starter Deck 21, and that includes some new cards we need to have a look at, but it also includes some cards from that bonus pack that we've been waiting for. Frankly, there's quite a lot that we need to be having a little bit of a look at. So with all of that borne in mind, why don't we start with Super Rare Luffy? This is one that we kind of peeked on the front of the box, and we actually saw that this artwork is coming as sleeves. So we've seen the artwork really clearly, but we hadn't seen the card, we didn't know what the card does, and now we totally do. We've got a 5-cost, 6,000 power, no counter, and we've got Rush. And that's not bad. 5 cost is fine, 6k with no counter is not great, honestly, but you've got Rush, and Rush is good. But it's not just Rush that we've got, because we've also got a skill here whereby, when attacking, give your leader or up to one of your characters one Rested Dawn card. I love this, because it actually turns it into a pseudo 4 cost. So it's 4 cost, 6,000 power, and you give up the usual 1k counter, but you gain Rush instead. And that's honestly alright by me. This seems like a pretty good deal. Like this, like having Rush, like giving Rested Dawn. And of course, you know, we saw the Zoro from this deck the other day, which has got Dawn X2, and you gain Rush. So there's a lot of Rush running around with this particular deck. But then by the same token, it's also got a bunch of, hey, let's just give Rested Dawn. You know, bearing in mind the leader skill here, because we saw that the other day as well, is Dawn X1 activate main once per turn. You can give a character 2 Rested Dawn, which is absurd. It's phenomenal. So we got a bunch of characters that are giving Rested Dawn, a bunch of characters that have got Rush, and frankly, Luffy right now basically fits in really nicely with everything we're seeing in this starter deck, and that's lovely. Wish I had a better look at the card, but hey, we can make out what the card does, and we got the sleeves that show the good artwork, and you know what? That'll do for now. Haven't got any other super rares to show you for the minute, but we do have some other cards. How about Nami here? Which, in a rare twist, it was revealed in a magazine in Japan, and somebody actually posted a clear picture, which never happens. Usually it's Potato Can City. And what we've got from the Nami here is 3 cost, 1,000 power, counter plus 1,000. So basically it's terrible in terms of power. But we got activate main once per turn. Give 2 Rested Dawn to your Straw Hat leader or one of your Straw Hat characters. Oh. Yeah, that's really good. Again, it just fits with everything we've been saying all along here. We have a deck whereby, you know, we got things like Zoro that needs a bunch of Dawn. We've got leader Luffy and now character Luffy that give Rested Dawn. Now we've got Nami that gives Rested Dawn. And that seems to be the real theme of the deck here, giving and receiving Rested Dawn. And that kind of sounds alright. And it does make us go back and take a look at some other cards a little bit differently. Like, for instance, one card that I know a couple of people have been talking about as a result of all this, specifically promo number 6, which has, you know, 3 costs, 3,000 power, counter plus 2k, but Dawn X2 on your turn, this character gains 2,000 power. So you whack 2 Dawn on there, but they double up, and you end up with a 3 cost 7k with counter plus 2,000. That's really good. We like this. Or even promo number 1 Luffy, and if you want to show off, how about the super pre-release winner version thereof, because that's got Dawn X2 Rush. So 6 cost 7k, but you whack 2 Dawn on there, and it's 6 cost 9k with Rush. And things like Nami can give you 2 Rested Dawn. Your leader Luffy can give you 2 Rested Dawn. Or Nami can give your 2 Rested Dawn to Zoro, and then Zoro's got Rush. And Zoro becomes a 4 cost, well, be a 7k with Rush at that point. You see where we're going with this? We can make a very aggressive deck. And this is how I think we separate ourselves from, like, Starter Deck 1 Luffy. The Starter Deck 1 Luffy leader is in some ways quite similar to this, in that it's a mono red Straw Hat leader, and it's got an activate main once per turn, give your leader or one of your characters one rested Don. Well, the new leader, you need to put a Don on Luffy, but then you get to give 2 rested Don. But honestly, that's kind of working out here, because we can use these other characters that need Don X2, and we can combine it with stuff like Nami, and it seems to be working quite nicely indeed. I've got my eye on this one. But we've also got a new Frankie that we should probably take a little bit of a look at here. Free cost, 4,000 power, counter plus 1,000, and we've got Don X2. During your opponent's turn, all of your Straw Hat crew characters with an original power of 4,000 or less gain 1,000 power. This is pretty cool. Now, it only actually works on your characters with an original power of 4,000 or less. Very important, because you cannot take a 4K, bump it right up, and then get the extra boost for Frankie. It basically turns a 4K into a 5K. Or, you know, if we go back to Nami, for instance, Nami starts off as a 1K, and now all of a sudden Nami jumps up to a 2K. It's alright. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference all the time, but it means your opponent's going to have to try a little bit harder to remove your characters. It means that your weaker blockers become ever so slightly less weak. Like, I've always been a fan of the Tony Chopper from Starter Deck 1, because a 1-cost blocker is frankly brilliant to me. Now, this goes from a 1-cost 1,000 power to a 1-cost 2,000 power. It's not going to make a huge amount of difference all the time, but it at least will make your opponent work that tiny little bit harder to try and remove this. Perfect? No! Not perfect, by a long shot, not pretending it is, but giving that little bit of an extra boost here is very nice. There is an argument that Frankie coming in here, having to have the 2 Don on, is less than ideal. But that extra, you know, Frankie turns into a 6K decent attacker, and then during your opponent's turn, you get the bump on your characters. I'm just saying this could work, alright? I'm just saying this could work. But then we've got some other cards that we need to have a little bit of a look at. And this is where things start getting a little bit interesting. Because we know we're getting a promo pack. We know that that's a thing. Well, here's the leader, Luffy. And this is going to look quite familiar to you quite quickly at this stage. Because design-wise, this is like the same as the ones from Starter Deck 13. This is pretty much exactly the same. Shout out to Vampire Gaming. It's where I found this one. And essentially, it's pretty much the same deal. Like, look at this side by side with the Luffy, you know, the main leader, the one we've seen, the one that always comes in the deck. And you can see that it's pretty much exactly the same as, say, Starter Deck 13 Luffy. You know, in terms of the design of the alternate art, I mean, we've got the exact same thing going on here. What I like to call the monochrome characters, even though they're not really monochrome because they've got some colour detailing in there. It's the same kind of, well, it's the same basic artwork, same kind of card, except what they've done is they've gone and drained most of the colour out of it. It's alright. And the thing is, there's only one leader in this set, so it's going to be a little bit of a pain to try and get this one, so there might be a little bit of value attached to the promo, and that's kind of cool. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I'm not pretending it is, but it's a cool little card. It's not one I'm personally desperate to be picking up, but that doesn't mean it's not a cool little card that we should get a little bit excited about, because I think we should. But there is one other card we need to have a chat about today, and it's this Tony Chopper. And this parallel edition Tony Chopper. And actually, and I'm a little bit proud of myself here, because this is where my Japanese comes in, it does actually say, at the bottom of the page here, it says, other than events, all cards, I'm pretty sure what it's saying there is, other than events, all cards are available as parallel illustrations, because this is what we've got from Tony Chopper. We don't need to spend much time looking at this card, because it's a vanilla 4-cost 6,000 power counter plus 1,000. The artwork's lovely, but it doesn't exactly need much of a translation. But what's really interesting here is this is not the same as what we see from the promo pack in Starter Deck 13. Like, the leader is the same, but here's what the character Shanks looked like in Starter Deck 13. Here's what the character Ace looked like in Starter Deck 13. You see where I'm going with this? They were all what I'm calling the monochrome cards. That is not the case here. Leader Luffy is coming through with that same design of card like we saw in Starter Deck 13, but Chopper isn't. And we don't have confirmation of this yet. I don't believe so anyway. But it certainly seems an awful lot like the leader gets the fancy monochrome version, but the characters get full art versions, which is kind of nice, honestly. And like I say, I'm pretty sure it says on the page here that all cards other than events are available as full arts, which would make sense because that was a deal back in Starter Deck 13. The promo pack had alt arts of all except for the event cards. I'm assuming that the art on them is a little more involved because they tend to be manga panels, which means that they're a little bit more awkward to do full art versions of. So that's my prediction here. I kind of like this change, honestly. I know I've already seen a bunch of people aren't thrilled with the leader, and I get that. But now we've got a different version on the others, so that's honestly kind of cool. And I'm pretty much alright with this. So there we go. That's what you need to know. We got a bunch of new cards to talk about. The first reveals from the promo pack, including a big change. And I think this starter deck might be shaping up to be pretty good, and that makes me pretty happy. But I've told you what you need to know now, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Tell me which of these cards you're excited about. Tell me if you think the deck might be good like I do. Let me know in the comment section. Get us! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing is always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.